Ready? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to call to order the February 17th, 2015 City Council meeting to order. We have roll call, please.
Mayor Dukes?
Here.
Vice Mayor Buckland?
Here.
Councilmember Cleveland?
Here.
Councilmember Didball? Here. Councilmember Gill?
Here. All right, I'd like us all to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll start with the invocation and then the Pledge of Allegiance by Todd Riemann.
If you bow your heads with me, please. Dear wise and loving Father, we're grateful for your presence in this public meeting. We're blessed with this day and everything that you provide each of us. Thank you for the ability to come together as a group of concerned citizens and to resolve issues in an environment of cooperation so we may make appropriate decisions for our community. I pray for your guidance in this meeting tonight. Please give us an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those that live and work in Yuba City and our surrounding communities. It's in your most blessed name that I pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Buckland and Todd, for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Public communications. You are welcome and encouraged to participate in this meeting. Public comment is taken on items listed on the agenda when they are called. Public comment on items not listed on the agenda will be heard at this time. Comments on controversial items may be limited, and large groups are encouraged to select representatives to express the opinions of the group. Is there anyone who would like to address the council on something that is not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we will move on. Do we have any written requests?
No requests were received.
All right, thank you. Appearance of interested citizens. Members of the public may address the City Council on items of interest that are within the city's jurisdiction. Individuals addressing general comments are encouraged to limit their statements to 3 minutes. All right. Number 3 is ordinances. California Public Utilities Retirement System, CalPERS contract amendment to implement employee cost sharing. Natalie, staff report, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Tonight, this is the second reading of this ordinance for the CalPERS cost sharing amendment for Classic members, and this is for Classic members to cost share. Oops, hold on, I got a little off here. Maybe it's not me. It's me. Okay, so let me start over here. My recommendation is to adopt an ordinance amending the city's contract with CalPERS for Classic members to cost share towards the employer rate per the negotiated contracts for the Mid-Managers Police Officers Association, police sergeants, first level manager bargaining units, along with the unrepresented confidentials and executive team, and I ask that the council waives the second reading. Tonight I am also presenting on adopting a resolution for CalPERS stating that the city is no longer paying half of the Classic CalPERS City Council member contribution, which would be effective March 21st, 2015. First, I'd like to start by providing some cost sharing background. This has come before council on January 20th, but I just wanted to provide a little bit more background for the audience's sake. The cost sharing contract amendment transitions out the furlough program while transitioning in applicable employees paying towards their retirement. This is the first of 2 cost sharing amendments that are required by the bargaining unit contracts. And it's just as a reminder, the new CalPERS members are already paying towards their share of retirement. And this is in accordance with pension reform. Continuing on the background here, the resolution of intent and first reading, like I just mentioned, went before City Council. Ooh, that should say January 20th. I apologize. We did have an employee election, and it was successful. Out of all the members who did vote, it was 100% approval for this cost sharing amendment. So we were very pleased with those results. On March 21st, these employees will begin payment towards the retirement benefits, while one 5% program will stop. On the City Council CalPERS resolution background, traditionally the City Council has been aligned with the executive team for benefits. We have asked that the recommendation is that with the March 21st pay period, that the executive team will begin paying towards the retirement benefits, and this would be in the similar amount to the executive team that they would be cost sharing. So there is a bit of a fiscal impact here. There is $384,000 in savings to the city budget. However, with the furlough elimination, this is an additional cost to the city, an amount of $723,000. The City Council CalPERS resolution is very minor, as you can see. It's $325. So at this time, I will take any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions of staff? All right, I'd like to open this up to the public. Anyone from the public like to speak on this item? Seeing none, close public hearing and bring it back to the council for action.
I move the item.
Second
I'll
that
second.
motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, unanimous.
Thank you
Moving
very
on-
much.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 4. Presentation about feral cat feeding prohibition ordinance. Diana Barrett with the Animal Services.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. This is our second time on this topic, and the recommendation is to adopt the free feeding feral cat ordinance that was presented a few weeks ago. In addition to that, I'd like to give a little background on what a program called TNR, or Trap, Neuter, Release, is. Just for clarification, we had sort of mentioned that a little bit in the last one. I just want to talk about what that is. Basically, the free feeding ordinance is the first step towards addressing the community cat issue that we're having in the Yuba City area. Not free feeding meaning bulk feeding, just throwing food out, just to be clear on what that means exactly as well. If we do that, as well as implement a trap, neuter, release program with the public's sanction, if you will, if they're interested in cats that might be on their property that they're feeding and managing, that's the difference between just throwing food out, then they would be coming to the Sutter Animal Services Authority for support with a program that we're currently designing. We're looking into grant possibilities. There's quite a bit of money out there through some charities, and I won't name them off, but we're looking at the different resources. Basically, we recognize that the public needs help with the feral cat issue. And this isn't anything that you folks don't know, but in 2012, we stopped taking in feral cats at the facility, and simply not taking them and then not offering another solution isn't working. What's happening is the animal shelter, especially this time of year with the good weather, we're getting between 5 and 10 calls every week from the public that is just about to pull their hair out. They're really upset about what's going on. And they're upset not because they don't like cats, it's because they like their backyard that they can't use, or they're feeling that they can't use it. So we're looking into possibilities right now to make this a 2-tiered system. So I gladly entertain any questions you have.
Right. Any questions of staff at this time? All right, I would like to open up this to the public hearing. There's a number of people that have filled out speaker cards, and we will start with Heather Chambers. Following Heather will be Jerry Walker. So if you could line up so we don't have a lot of time waiting for people in between, and then following that will be Brian Henry. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Heather Chambers, 275 Woodside Court, Yuba City, 95993. And the only background I have on this is from the Appeal Democrat article. Okay, and I'm not quite sure how this fits in, but I know that I personally have taken on 23 cats over 20 years and found a home for every single one of them. The last was a litter of 4 abandoned kittens, a day old, and I bottle fed them until they were old enough to get homes. So what I read in the Appeal Democrat sounds a little bit different than what you were saying. I know some of the problems we had were there weren't traps available to get them over to the SPCA for the low-cost neutering. And, you know, I depended heavily on a rescue group to help me find some of the homes for the cats and to help me with the cost on the spaying and neutering. So I'm concerned that just saying you can't feed, and that's what got out in the Appeal Democrat, how do you tell the difference between a lost cat and a feral cat? Two of the cats we took in had been hit by a car. And when they're in pain, you can't tell. When you've trapped them, you have to feed them for the period of time before, you know, the stitches are removed or you can release them back out again. The ones we did, I helped my neighbor, and we took care of 11 cats over a period of a couple of years and got them neutered so that there are no more cats that are able to bear kittens or father kittens. So I don't want to be on the wrong side of the law. And I think that some of the efforts need to be to help people who keep that problem away from other people and from government funding being required. Having the traps available so that you can go and get them the vaccinations and get them neutered would be appreciated.
Thank you for your comments. Next is Jerry Walker.
Hi, I'm Jerry Walker. I live at 1166 Northgate Drive in Yuba City. I was a bit disappointed that I didn't hear about a previous meeting, and that when I saw it in the Appeal Democrat, it was like that was Sunday's paper and you're going to make a decision tonight. So perhaps it was in there and I missed it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm certainly not an advocate of feeding without spaying and neutering. I've never done that, and I don't advocate that at all. I'm okay with the ban as long as people like the lady who just spoke and myself are able to practice TNR methods. I think that that's important. I think it's more humane, and I hope that if the ordinance passes, that you will have clear and precise wording in there that will exempt those of us who are doing it using TNR methods, that we will be exempt from breaking the law. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Brian, you're up, and then following Brian will be Carla, and then Jan.
Okay, my name's Brian Henry. I live at 833 Carnell Court here in Yuba City, and I have a business out on Burns Drive. And the reason that I came today was because 2 years ago when we moved our business to town, we inherited one of these issues. At our business, there was a large feral cat population there. And after the first several months, we realized that they were in the dumpsters and they were all over the place. And so we decided that we would begin to manage that colony that was there. And so the following spring, we wound up with like 30 kittens that were just everywhere. Little kitties all over the place, wandering in our building. And so we did what we could. While they were still young, we captured those kittens and found homes for all of them. But then we began to feed the cats, and we found that we could easily control where they were. And by taking away some of the stress of hunting for food all the time, they became much more mellow. And now the colony is very, very manageable. It's very easy for us to capture them, take them in for TNR, whatever it may be. And so when we saw this, I think there's been some confusion based on the article in the paper, and the ordinance itself is a little bit confusing in that it cites a study that doesn't really support the idea of a food ban for cats as the reason for having made some of the decisions going forward to stop doing euthanasia and some of those things, which all make sense. So I guess the issue that I wanted to bring was that I wanted to make sure that if there are a lot of people out there, I think, that have the willingness to put forward an effort to manage these colonies, but because there's no cohesive group that's working together with the city to manage them, there's not really a resource available. So we work with other businesses close to us. We pay for those spay and neuters, but we don't get discounts, right? So all of that stuff is not a cooperative effort. And so the concern was that a feeding ban may alienate some of the people that the city's going to need to actually effectively manage the populations in the area, because you're going to have to rely upon the community to help, or it's not going to happen. I mean, I think the example of that is, all of the money that has gone into the shelters, and now they're finding that those methods aren't very effective. The science says that in order to decrease the population of a feral cat colony, you have to remove 50% of the population consistently, or they will continue to outgrow the rate of euthanasia. And the counties in the state of California have never done better than 5%. And so when you look at those kind of statistics, there's no way. And the only success stories that you see are the community-based type programs that effectively incorporate education, training, and the resources of the community to work with animal control to make that happen. So my main concern was that we, first off, offer that assistance. There's a lot of us, I think, out there that are willing to
I need
do
to
that.
have you wrap it up, Brian. You've
Need
exceeded
it.
your 3
Oh,
minutes.
okay, that was my beep. Okay.
That was your beep.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Next we have Carla.
It is a joy to be here because you are hearing what some of the concerns are, and we're trying to do this as a group. When you enforce something on people, the law, it's the intent of the law that should be the guiding force in when you punish people. And if the law is so written that you're punishing people who don't really deserve it, then you're creating more problems than you're solving. And so if I have any ability to affect your decision today, I would ask you not to make a decision today. It's very true. I heard of it because I read the paper today, and I don't always read the paper. And there are many other people out there. Now, I'm going to tell you a situation in my life. I have a young daughter, or she's considerably younger because I adopted her, and I adopted her at 53. And she had a cat. She has a sliding glass door in her bedroom that just came and sat on her lap, and it became a pet. And we spent hundreds of dollars on it with the vet. That was maybe a feral cat, I suppose. We also we got little birds like at Easter time, little chickens, and we were going to raise them. And we raised them in the house for a while, and then I set the cage out on a table, and then she let the cage be down on the ground. And we came out one morning, and body parts were all over the place. And she was just, this is so horrible. Well, a mother cat had kittens in our hedge, and she was trying to feed her babies. And that's a perfectly normal thing. And she was all upset about it. But she had this life experience, and she learned to love the mother cat. My neighbor took the cat in, had the cat neutered, and then she had her babies. Well, I went out because I was raised on a farm. We are an agricultural community. And I caught one of these little things running around. Okay, it bit me. It bit me in the finger. I had to go to the doctor. Big deal. It became the best cat. It was of the neighbors. We've continued to feed mother cat. Under your ordinance, as if you were thinking, it would be illegal for me to feed that cat. She feeds it every single night. I put a box out there for it. The babies come back and they're huge, great big things. They catch the rats and the mice around my area, and they leave them as little presents for me. And I'm very grateful for that. And when you do something that's against the nature of the relationship between humans and animals, it's not quite right. You can make wonderful decisions for our community, but don't just use the guidelines of high-paid officials or high-paid authorities. And I thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Jan Kendall.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak again. I spoke at the last meeting. I just wanted to reiterate that the Appeal Democrat is probably the reason why so many people are here, and having everybody on the same page, both the anti-cat and the pro-cat people need to understand that It by all appearances, this ordinance is going to still allow feeding, but in a managed, careful way. Not the 30-pound open bag as was the example last time. So I think that that's important to make sure that that is well stated so that everybody understands, and we don't make more work for the staff at animal control. Because as soon as this is passed and everybody's still under the misunderstanding that you can't feed cats, or as that what they're going to understand, and the idea is to actually to stop free feeding cats, oh my goodness, you're going to get so many people calling saying, my neighbor's feeding their cat outside right now, come and bust them. And I don't think that's quite what you guys have in mind. So making sure that the public is well aware of what that definition is. And I can see why free feeding is a bad thing. When you free feed, you're not only free feeding all the cats, but you're free feeding the possums, the raccoons, and everybody else is coming to visit. So I certainly understand that, but I think it is important to make sure. And it looks like that there might be an opportunity for a lot of volunteers to help with the trap, neuter, release program. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Jan. And anyone else like to speak? Please. Let's take your cards up to the clerk.
My name is Peggy Peterson, 244 Fairman Street, Yuba City, 95991. We have a feral cat problem in our neighborhood, and animal control has come out and told us not to feed, and nobody's feeding anymore. But the cats are still healthy, and they're all still there, and they're all still howling at night because I know they're in heat. And I know that the 7 kittens that have been born in our particular house around our property are now propagating. So what I would like to see is not an ordinance such as that, but some help, because I can't, because of my physical limitations and time limitations, capture them, and I can't pay for them to be neutered, but that's what I would like. I wouldn't mind having neutered, spayed feral cats on my property as long as they're not going to be reproducing, because do the math. And if they're not spayed and neutered, there's just going to be 30 or 40 of them by another year. And nobody in our neighborhood that I know of is now feeding them because we were told not to. I never did. It was the lady across the street that started it. But I think cats are sort of like salmon. They go back to the place they were born to have their kittens. Well, that's what's happening at my house. Even though I don't feed them, they come back to the place where they were born and have more kittens. And I just am not able to trap, neuter, and release them. If someone else could trap them for me, have them neutered and release them on my property, that's fine, but I can't do it myself. So I would like to see some kind of help along that area.
Thank you for your comments. Next.
Good evening. My name is Tommy Thompson. I live at 1701 Harbortown Drive in Yuba City. I am not against people having pets. However, in my neighborhood, I've lived there for 24 years when it was being developed, and we've had 2 families that feed cats. We have 1 family now that feed cats. I can't let my grandchildren go out in the front yard, the backyard. I am a custom car advocate. I come out of the house, cats are on top of my car. I have scratches. I go to car shows, and we just don't know what to do. I've talked to my neighbors. I was hoping that more of them would be here today. Those of you that have acres of land and want to feed cats, I have no problem with that. I personally don't have any pets, but I would like to enjoy my neighborhood, my yard. The smell in the summertime is just, most of you guys know what it smells like. My grandkids, when we go down to Happy Park, they will not walk past the house. We go across the street, walk past, and then go to the corner, cross the street, and cross the street again just to go to the park. While I'm sitting in our family room watching TV, watching the news, Cats are coming across the patio. I come out of the house. They're scattering. You watch them come across the street from the house. They come down. They go into all the other neighbors' yards, do their business. I have to clean it. I used to go and buy the stuff to put out to keep animals away. That got to be pretty expensive. Go check on the price. Thank you. I'd just like to see something done about people having too many cats. These cats are not house cats. They're kept outside. They feed them out of a hubcap on the car. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Gerald Hykins, 2040 Spring Court, Yuba City. Sorry for being late. I was feeding my feral cats. And have been doing so for about 4 years. They're not in a neighborhood. They are actually in more of a commercial area. And we are probably on our third or fourth generation, although the generation that is out there now will be the last one if they are left to themselves, because all of them have been spayed or neutered or taken away. I myself have trapped 6 cats and had them neutered, and helped in doing that with 3 more this year. I think the free feeding thing is a little bit weird way to talk about it, because I probably spend about $1,000 a year feeding and medicating these quote feral cats. What I do see, and somebody else had mentioned it, is probably in the area I'm in anyway, half the cats there are dropped off. They weren't born there. They're cats that'll walk up to you the first day you see them. And since I'm out there every day feeding them, I know which ones come and go. And it's not just a feral cat population problem. It's a abandoned animal population problem. And when we treat them all the same, it's not quite fair to the ones that used to have a household. I do think there are ways to do this. I don't think stopping feeding, public feeding, let's say, is the first step that should be taken. I think what the proposal talks about as far as trap, spay, and neuter, or neuter and release, is a good start, and that's where we should start. Not stopping the feeding as a first item, and I ask that you take action on the trap, neuter, and release program tonight, but let's not get into stopping feeding by persons who care for these animals that have been abandoned.
Thank you. If you'd like to make some comments, please step to the podium.
My name is Harold Steininger. I live in the county or city. House next to me is city. I'm the next house. I'm county. My brother-in-law also lives in the city. Recently, he had a bunch of feral cats at his place, and he was called by somebody from that department saying that they would come over if he would capture the cats, and he had a lot of them, and he was free-feeding them. He just left a bag out for them. And he has a lot of property out there, and he trapped the cats. They had them fixed, brought them back, and he's fine with that. I'm fine with that. I have 3 dogs, and I love cats, but I don't think that this ruling for not feeding cats at all is fair at all. You know, cats come over, you try to take care of them. Like we have a couple of cats that are next door neighbor cats, and they come over, they drink water, and then they go home. And I don't know if they're feral cats or not. We have a neighbor that has a lot of cats, but I just don't believe in this ordinance. I mean, you know, trap and release is fine. People should be able to trap them and call the pound or whoever, have them come over and get them fixed, and then bring them back. I don't have any problem with that. But just to quit feeding them, I'm against that. In other words, I heard some people say, well, they're alive, they find food and whatever. Well, I don't believe that. And I'd hate to see any animal, cat or dog or anything, not be fed and starve to death. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on this issue? Seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing. Okay. Please step up to the podium then. Open the public hearing again. All right. If there's anyone else that would like to speak on this, please step up in line. If not, we'll close the public hearing after this item for this speaker.
I almost didn't get up here because I was late, but I can't just sit there and not say anything. I am a cat lover. I'm very emotional behind this because when I read it in the paper that they wanted to ban us from feeding them, I couldn't believe that. These little animals need advocates that come and speak for them. They can't speak for themselves. I myself have been feeding, and I don't like the word feral because a lot of these cats have been abandoned. And when I saw where it said that they wanted to punish people by fining them and stuff, the people that should be fined is the ones that are abandoning these animals, not us that are trying to keep them alive and keep them healthy. So far, I have had the cats neutered, 11 of them so far. I will do 2 more this month coming in March. I plan to do 2 more in April with the help of a friend that takes them down and gets them neutered for me. And I have fed them myself. I'm on a fixed income, and I would go without food rather than not have food for these animals. They all know my car. They all are located in an area where they're safe, they're contained, and I just think that, not to feed them would be terrible. And that's all I have to say. I will continue to take care of them. If some of us could get together maybe and work some kind of an alliance or something where we can all help each other on this, I think it would be good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we have a couple more speakers. Go ahead and step up to the podium, and then when you're finished, if you could fill out a speaker card for us also.
Hi everybody, my name is Elizabeth Fredu and I am co-director of Rescue Paws. I live at, should I tell everybody where I live? No. 1179 Cecily Court in Yuba City. The reason why I came up here is because I feel like there's a lot of confusion with how this ordinance is worded and the people's understanding. What I'm hearing pretty much across the board is that the people that are cat lovers are spaying and neutering. So feed them. You're fine. The kindest thing to do is spay and neuter. And you guys seem to all pretty much be on board with that aspect of it. So no one's breaking the law as long as you guys are making a conscious effort to control the population. As far as Rescue Paws goes, and far as the way we see it, the kindest thing we can do is to prevent animals from going to the shelter, prevent animals from, having to, or ending up dumped somewhere, because all it goes right back to is taking that extra step to spay and neuter. I mean, we wouldn't even really be having this problem if we had already, if we had something in place to spay and neuter, which is what we're working on. So everyone here that's feeding cats, but are also doing the extra step in spaying and neutering, you guys are all fine. We're on taking the right steps. We're going forward. It's progression, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. My name is Frank Bertolan, and I live at 1862 Kevin Drive. I also work with Rescue Paws, and my wife does. I just have a short comment. Obviously, the feral cat problem in our area is not limited to our area. Yuba City isn't the only town or city with that problem. I would invite the council to put off a vote, if possible, on this ordinance. Let's investigate what other cities have done to address this problem. Investigate cities where they've successfully cut down on the feral cat population and maybe try and come up with a program that models what other successful cities have done. I've heard a lot of emotional talk, and I'm very emotional about cats also. We've adopted many, we've saved many, we've trapped and neutered many, kept some, released some. But if we put the emotional side, take it out of, look at it in the context of what works versus what we want to see have happen. Take the emotional side out of it, and let's go find out what has worked at other cities and maybe apply it to our area. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, this will be the last one.
Hi, my name's Gina McCarthy, and I'm from Bakersfield. We do have a TNR neuter release, trap, neuter, and release. I've done 26, and I still have 57 that I have. Most of mine are drops. And yeah, you can tell the difference. We don't have an ordinance that you can't feed them. And that would obviously be a major mistake. It is the people that are dropping them. It's a problem more than it is the feeders. But the TNR is definitely the way it needs to be. The county is the one that is doing it. The city is not on board yet. They are trying to get the city on board. They allow each group or person two a day to bring in. And then each shelter allows a certain amount per day. So,
all right. Well, thank you for your comments. All right. At this time, I'm going to close the public hearing. Diane, I'd like you to come back and maybe address some of the comments or questions that you've heard tonight.
Can I ask her a couple of questions and maybe it'll fill in
absolutely
where we need to go? Diana, if you could just speak to us on ownership of Beeline, the exemptions that the ordinance has in place for individuals that do TNR, that type of work, and define free feeding for the group, because I believe that the local paper probably did a disservice by not laying out what the ordinance is really about in its
Sure.
More complex nature.
So ownership, basically, Southern Animal Services Authority and other agencies recognize that cats are sort of, just by nature, free roaming. And because of that, in most jurisdictions, there is no ordinance against cats free roaming, going over the fence, up the tree, and the things that they do, staying within the city block. So currently in this jurisdiction, there is no requirement to have cats given rabies vaccinations and pet licenses, though that is the case in some jurisdictions. On the free feeding, basically, I talked to a few people today, I'll tell you. I'll just say that. My phone was it was bad. And that's okay. I get the passion, and I'm happy about the passion. But I did talk to someone who used the term bulk feeding, and I wish we'd used that. Doesn't that mean something different? Wow. Bulk, and I did use the expression 2 weeks ago, taking a 20 or 30 pound bag of food, putting it on the back porch, slicing it open, and walking away. That's not effectively managing a colony. If you put the food out, you're going to attract ferals, you're going to attract the neighborhood the cat that lives across the street that likes that food better, right? It doesn't have to be feral. It's going to come. It's going to create issues. So maybe the wording. Maybe we could have used a different word. But basically, what we mean is, if you're going to put out food, it should be for that particular animal or for those particular animals. An adequate amount of food for the pets that you own, the ones that you are a steward of, not just the neighborhood, and inviting. Did I hit that, sir? And I think there was a third thing that I missed. I'm sorry. Exemptions. So, do we have the ordinance? Are we able to put the ordinance up? Yeah, do you have it in the... Well, basically, that's okay. So on the ordinance, it's a 2-page document. Section D, it says this section shall not apply to persons who qualify for a trap neuter release program that the city establishes to reduce the feral wildcat populations. So that is how the ordinance is written. But it doesn't say anything in there, and maybe we should put something in there about the public persons that are willing to do it on their own. We certainly don't want to stop you. We get that what you're doing is compassion-based, and we applaud that.
All right. Were there any other questions that you heard this evening that you'd like to comment on?
About the traps being available, the Sutter Animal Services has humane traps that we make available to the public at no charge. And that's something that they've done historically, and we have enough, I think, to offer to the public. And also, one of the speakers had mentioned, why can't we pick them up, the animal control staff, take the animals, get them fixed, and bring them back? We just don't have the staffing for that. We have, the field services are 3 people to handle the entire Sutter County, which is 661 square miles. And we are oftentimes on bite cases, straying dogs, and so forth. There was an article in the paper a few months ago. At the end of 2014, we had handled nearly 700 animal bite cases with 3 people. So, although we'd like to be able to pick up cats and take them and get them fixed and bring them back, there's just no way we can do that with staffing.
All right. Any other questions of council?
I don't have any questions, but just a comment, and I think a lot of the members from the audience are thinking that this is the first reading or this is the first time it's come to council. This is actually the second time. This is the second reading. It was approved by the council at the last meeting, and this is a second reading coming across. In all these years, you know, the ordinance that we put together, they're never the perfect ordinances. We try to get it right. Again, there's always time to change the language. You can use different wordings. A lot of times an ordinance is coming through because we have nothing in place at all to have any kind of guidelines to go by it. One of the things that I've heard here tonight is we've got some wonderful groups. We've got some wonderful people in the community that are already doing what they're doing. And this isn't something that's stopping you or forbidding you to not to do what you're already doing. And I think this is the first step for us, trying to get some kind of an ordinance put into place. That doesn't mean that it can't be changed, it can't be modified, it can't be looked at again at another date. So I just want to let you guys all know that.
Thank you for your comments.
To the chair.
What is that?
I think it would be, I'm glad to hear all the participation here this evening, phone calls and comments that I got received today. And I think as Buckland, Councilman Buckland had said, that misinformation definitely was put out there. The ordinance was misunderstood, and I think that it is also with the wording definitely needs wordsmithing. I'd been using the terminology open feeding instead of free feeding because, as the speaker had said, public speaker had said, it's not free, it's very costly. But just to cut open a bag, that's why I said cut open a bag and put it out there. I just called it open feeding which is, like I said, skunks, raccoons, possum, every cat in the neighborhood that, like they were saying, likes that food instead of what they're getting. And so some of these things, we're glad that you came and made these comments on that. But what I'd like to see, though, is for the ones that are in the community that are doing the TNR methods to get, bring your name, your phone number, contact with our animal control facility to let them know that you are actually doing it and where. So we actually can have they could put that on the map that these people are doing it in that area. And just to let them know that they're doing it and how many you're doing, give them something to work with a database now that we're having, so that we know what's really going on in our community. There's no way we could have known unless you showed up tonight and made the calls you did. So thank you for doing this. But as fellow council members have said, there is nothing in place at all to do anything with. And while it definitely needs some help on this ordinance, springtime is here and people are feeding cats and they're being born, and there's nothing in place to at least start to address the situation. And it's not that we're forbidding you from feeding cats. We're just not gonna. We would prefer that you would not open feed or bulk feed feral cats that are breeding, and that's where the problem is right there. There's, being a rural community, farming community, we will be inundated because we are a farming community. It's the way it is. And they don't, once they run out of rats, and at the beginning of the year they kind of go down, and the mice, they'll be definitely visiting your homes. And so I've had that happen, so I understand it. So this is the first step, and I think in the next full year or two of massaging this to become, I think, a good ordinance. It's kind of funny, all we're going to be talking about is cats, but as you can see, in this community, cats are an important thing to people. And so, yes, we do have to address cats as a council, because that's what the people want us to talk about. Thank you for being here and giving us more information to work with and data. We need the data from what you're doing so we can improve what we are going to be doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Council, I have a question for you. The ordinance currently does not have any language that would exempt people that are doing, like was mentioned here in the audience. It just talks about bulk feeding. Is there any language that we need to change or bring this back to do that, or can we amend that later? What would be the approach on that?
Well, we could always come back and we can always amend an ordinance later. But as Diana said, she read right out of the ordinance, there is an exemption right now. Persons who, this ordinance will not apply. I'm repeating what Diana just said. Persons who qualify for a trap, neuter, release program that the city establishes to reduce the feral wildcat populations. So that presupposes that the city is going to establish a TNR program, which I understand is in the works right now. So there is language to exempt people who qualify for that program that we, the city, I don't think currently have, but we are in the process of establishing that in the future. And there is a definition of free feeding. We use the term free feeding. We have a definition in the ordinance currently that's being proposed tonight. And I'll just read it for the audience and the council. Free feeding means not limiting the amount of food made available to an animal at a single feeding, resulting in excess food, which will result in creating inviting conditions for other animals, including wildlife. And then the prohibition in the ordinance states, it shall be unlawful for any person to create a public nuisance by free feeding any wild animals, including any feral cats. We also have a definition of feral cats. So reading that all in conjunction, it's the free feeding, the excess feeding of feral cats that's prohibited by the ordinance that's in the language currently being proposed to the council tonight.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, Diane.
Also,
yes. Go ahead.
I mean, if you're going to ask questions, that's fine. But then I've got a statement.
Go ahead with your statement.
Okay.
I'll follow up.
you know, many of the concerns that were brought up and through each one of the speakers, talking probably 3/4 of the group was speaking about the need to address individuals that are dumping animals or not taking care of an animal. And I greatly believe that that is probably the paramount issue dealing with cats, with the exception that cats cannot be contained to a yard. If there was ever a neighborhood fight that has occurred in my 32 years in police work, it dealt with cats. Second was motorhomes. Don't ask me how those two tie together. But I think that what happens is people with all great intention buy these cats, they bring them home, it's going to be a house cat, and they can't deal with the negative behavioral issues that a certain cat has. They don't make any type of positive reinforcement or any type of training with that cat, so they simply just turn it outside. And how do you get rid of a problem? How did the original owner get rid of the problem? It wasn't just turning it outside, they stopped feeding it. That cat stopped coming to their house. They stopped caring about that cat. Is that an issue? That's the paramount issue that we have to deal with. Enforcement of that would be next to impossible. These cats roam freely. So placing a cat in anyone's hands and being able to enforce that is, by question, probably impossible. I think that as we look through what we're going to do, how we're going to move through this process, and with the TNR, and probably not just a boilerplate TNR, but one that is tailor-made for Sutter County, one that is tailor-made for Yuba City, will work. It will take public commitment. We as a governmental agency cannot do what the public should be doing. There is no way to do that. These are your animals. I heard one lady from Bakersfield, how many cats? 50-some cats? They come to your house? That you've had? Oh, okay. But I know a lady that I helped send over to Diana had 36 cats in her home. It ruined her home. Only her bedroom was a human sanctuary. The rest of it was a cat sanctuary. And so she has struggled financially to come out of that. There are people that are committed. They're loving. They care about animals. I have 2 daughters that deeply care about animals. I know. I've had them in my house, not my daughters, the animals. And most of these animals, if you domesticate them, they become very good pets. And I've heard that tonight. This is a step. We need to reduce the feral cat population. It's a health issue. And I think that we as a community just need to do a better job of providing for the care of our animals and our pets, not feral cats. And there is a definite distinction between what a feral cat and a feral house cat may be. That's the one you can invite in, and it's not going to take your finger off when it bites you. A feral cat is a fairly vicious animal. So I would really caution that we also look at those definitions as we move forward. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Diana, my question had to do with the enforcement. This is not something where we're just going to go out with a heavy hand and start fining people with huge fines. That it's more of an educational process to help the public help us with
Right.
this
It's
problem.
always been an educational process, but it didn't always work. It didn't usually work because there weren't any teeth in it, so to speak. Basically, we would get a call for service. I can guarantee you, when there is a problem and there's 30 to 50 cats being fed, the reporting party knows who is feeding. They know, and they tell us who is feeding. And in the past, we would go to the house and we would educate them on why it's not a good idea, and then we would leave, and there was no recourse. And so this way, we give them an opportunity, we educate them, we give them an opportunity to correct the issue with as the TNR program is in place and implemented, we give them some resources. Look, we know you meant well, but this isn't probably what you meant to do. So no, we're not going to be going door knocking again. We have 3 animal control officers for the entire Sutter County. So
Thank you, Diana.
I do have one more follow up and kind of what I was addressing a little earlier, if possible.
Okay, go ahead.
Since we do not have an official TNR program established, is there a way that we could get an acknowledgement that if these people come in and let you know what they're doing and how many, and kind of give you a file of what they're doing, that could become the TNR program that qualifies for now?
yes,
And then that would take care of that, and then you can establish one that would include that later, a more complete one, and all the concerns that everybody has wouldn't have a problem with
exactly.
not qualifying and being exempt.
Exactly. In order for this to work, it has to be a partnership. So absolutely. If I'm sure I didn't bring enough business cards. Nope, look at that. But is there a way to put my information up on the, okay, great.
We put your cell phone number up there.
Yeah. Here we go. Not really, but okay. Well, okay, so here we go. Anybody wants it? I'll give you my
Pens and paper out.
I'm going to give you my boss's number. Here we go. Sorry, sir. It's obviously 530-822-7375. My name is Diana Barrett, Barrett. And for those of you that prefer email, it's initial D, Barrett, Barrett, at yubacity.net. And you can just send me an email if you want to, or give me a call. Let me know what your colony is like, what you're working on. And I already see a spreadsheet being formulated right now in my head. And we'll put something together, and we'll be working on this as a partnership. And perhaps there'll be a TNR coalition. It'll be a brand new thing. So we have to do something. Again, this was the first step. Okay.
Thank you, Diane.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I just want to make a comment. I want to applaud those of you who are helping with, having it managed feeding, the TNR, taking the cats, taking care of them. At the same time, I also want to make sure that the neighbors who don't want the cats in their yards are also being taken care of. So we have to find a fine line here. So I think the ordinance here will be a start for all of us to work together on both sides. For those of you who are doing a well job in taking care of them, I want to assure that the ordinance is indicating that you will not be fined when you are doing the proper thing. And that way, hopefully, your neighbors who do not want the cats there, help them out as well. So work as a partnership in your neighborhood so that we as a community can work together to do this. This is a starting point, and we have a lot of work to do to get and fine-tune this, but at least we're here in the same room, and let's talk about it and let's get the process going. So I appreciate everybody coming and putting in your comments. It helps put the process together.
Thank you. I'd just like to kind of wrap the comments up here. One common thread that I heard through most of the speakers tonight was that you're the responsible people here that are doing the right thing, that are taking that extra effort and spending your own money to do the spaying and neutering of these feral cats, in addition to feeding them. And as Diana talked about, the stewardship of those cats. And so I want to thank you. First of all, you guys are not the problem. The problem is the people that are just bulk feeding and opening those bags and doing nothing else other than just throwing food out there. Right. And that's what this ordinance really is addressing, is that. And so I applaud you and thank you for what you are doing, and contact Diana, because we can put together a coalition to start working together, the community and the animal services, to be able to come up with a solution so that people like Tommy don't have the problems of cats overrunning his property uncontrolled. And that's really what this is about, is trying to have a workable solution for everyone. So thank you. And with that, I'd like to bring it back to the council for action.
Move staff's recommendation.
Second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, and thank you all for your comments tonight. All right, moving on to item number 5, which is the consent calendar. All matters under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There's no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the council votes on the motion, unless members of the city council, staff, or public request specific items to be discussed or removed from the consent calendar for individual action. Is there anyone who'd like to have an item removed? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
All right, a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Let's give it just a moment for the room to empty out here and we'll move on to the next item. If somebody could catch the door there once everybody is out, I'd appreciate it. All right, item number 6, 2014 Homeland Security Grant, purchase of thermal imaging cameras. Pete Daly.
Mayor Dukes, members of City Council, my first urge was to talk about Dalmatian dogs tonight, but we'll hold off on that until next meeting. So
They've been pretty tame.
I know.
Are they trained?
Yes, they are.
All right. Stay.
They can be a little lively at times. No, I'm here to talk to you tonight about thermal imaging cameras, 2014 Homeland Security Grant Program, and the purchase of those cameras. The City Council previously approved a request from the Fire Department for equipment and training to be purchased from earlier Homeland Security Grants programs. At the January 20th, 2015 meeting, the City Council accepted funding from the 2014 Homeland Security Grant and authorized appropriate modifications to the Fire Department budget. The Yuba City Fire Department recently conducted analysis and hands-on comparisons of thermal imaging cameras that are available, and the result is recommending City Council authorize the purchase of 6 thermal imaging cameras from Infrared Systems Group. The city would be able to piggyback on the pricing through Sacramento Fire Department and their bid process that they secured. Each unit cost is about $8,055 and includes the camera and all the accessories with it, for a total cost of $51,955. The thermal cameras would be placed on each of the first out 5 fire engines as well as the battalion chief's unit. So at that time, I'm asking that you consider the authorization to purchase the 6 thermal imaging cameras from ISG Infrared Systems Groups of Lawrenceville, Georgia, in the amount of $51,955, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions?
I have a question to me.
Go ahead.
Chief, you thought I was going to go there, didn't you, with Oakland? No, I'm not.
That's on the next one I got to present to you.
Yeah. So on the cameras themselves, can you just talk a little bit about the fireman's safety aspect and why these are important?
These cameras are very important to us. They're one of the latest tools that we have in our toolbox. They literally can do a couple different things. They can see right through smoke. They're very similar to the infrared that you've seen during the Iraq War, as far as you'll see some of when they deliver ordnances and stuff from the air. You can see even at nighttime where they can see the buildings, they can see the structures. It basically makes nighttime look like day. And for us, day and night really doesn't matter when we go into a smoky building because we can't see when we go in. These cameras cut right through that. They allow us to see people that are trapped inside buildings. They allow us to find hidden fires. A best example I can give you is if you were to put your handprint on this piece of wood right here and then walk away. If this room was pitch black, I'd be able to see my handprint on here for probably up to a minute or two. So we can actually see if someone's walking barefoot where they've walked, if they're in a house in the middle of the night, if it's on like a wooden floor or something like that, we can see where they place their hands. And it's just a lot easier for us to find victims and also make sure that our firefighter safety is improved in case one of our own firefighters go down.
I thank you for the explanation. My exposure is limited pretty much to Chicago Fire, and they don't use these devices. So.
They don't need them there?
Apparently not.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions of staff?
I'd like to recommend the purchase of the infrared systems cameras, the amount of $51,955.
All right. Have a motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item number 7. You're still up, Chief.
I'm still up. Item number 7. So I'm before you tonight about to discuss with you about the purchase of personal protective equipment, what we call PPE. It's our turnouts, our turnout coats, and our turnout pants for the Yuba City Fire Department. NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, establishes a policy setting for mandatory replacement of turnouts, or they recommend mandatory replacement of turnouts every 10 years to ensure that we got proper protective clothing. The Yuba City Fire Department spent the last 2 years reviewing current PPE inspections and making recommendations to upgrade our specifications to meet current safety guidelines based on what's industry standard out there. As well, CAL FIRE recently went through a statewide analysis and established new specifications for their future purchase of personal protective equipment for their personnel as well. Using the new CAL FIRE specifications as a starting point, Yuba City Fire Department evaluated its specification and has updated our department specification to meet the new industry standard. Based upon this new specification for our PPE, our turnouts, we contacted 2 manufacturers, Globe and Morning Pride, who met the new CAL FIRE specification and had each company produce 1 set of turnouts we would use for field testing for about 4 months. During that time, we tested in the field. We looked at a number of components such as, during that test period, such as wear, comfort, mobility, those type of things. Based upon the firefighters' feedback and in the best interest of the city, Globe turnouts were selected as a turnout of choice. Globe turnouts met all the new industry standards and cost less than Morning Pride gear, the other one we looked at. So we do have funding in our current budget. We budgeted ahead of time to make sure we had funding available to replace these turnouts. So we have funding in our current year budget. So at this time, I'm asking for authorization to purchase 40 sets of Globe personal protective equipment turnouts from Ellen Curtis and Sons of Oakland in the amount of $80,657. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I have a couple quick questions for you, Chief. Okay. So we're replacing all of we don't do it on a staggered basis, we do it at a one time every so often? Is that how we do it? Or?
Yeah, actually what the plan was, originally I was going to try and replace half this year and half next year. But I was able to acquire, when I worked with Robin Bertagna, our finance officer, we were able to achieve half that funding. But because I was able to acquire another grant for our helmets, which is a separate issue, I had some leftover money that they also put in the budget. So I went to Robin and said, hey, do you want this money back, or would you like me to apply towards turnouts, and we'll get as many as we can this year and maybe not have to buy any next year at all. And so her recommendation was to go ahead and put that money that was already budgeted from the helmets, where we luckily received a grant, so we didn't have to spend it on that, and put it towards the turnouts. So originally, to get back to your question, yes, we were going to stagger it over a 2-year period, but we were able to get enough funding to purchase them all this year. And then that'll put us on a 5-year rotation plan. So every 5 years we'll rotate out. So we'll have one primary set, and then one reserve set.
That was going to be my next question. What do we do with the old turnouts then?
The old turnouts will go into reserve status and for 5 years, and then we'll rotate them out.
Do we rotate those to departments that don't have budgets to be able to acquire this type of equipment?
Yes, a lot of I just sent some older turnouts, or even older than that, probably 15 plus years, that no longer met the standard for us. We sent it through the Bomberos program down to Mexico to help them out.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments of staff? All right.
Move to approve staff's recommendation.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, it was second. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you very much.
Chief Landon, 2014 Homeland Security Grant Program.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. You can see the wording is very similar to the fire departments. We had the same opportunity as a fire department to have a grant that was allocated by the Department of Homeland Services in conjunction with the state. They allocate so much money to the county and to all the agencies that are public health, public safety within the county. Our allocation was $28,000. And after careful review, what the police department has decided that they think is the best purchase for this amount of money is these are portable radios. And each officer carries a portable radio. And each patrol car has a radio that they can talk on, so they're able to keep the radio by their staff. This is the lifeline for an officer. They talk to dispatch. They talk to other officers, so everybody knows where they are at all times. In the unmarked vehicles that we have, the admin cars, the detective rides, the gang officers, the Net 5 vehicles, not necessarily the Net 5 because they're covered under a different budget, but the other ones besides it that I mentioned, we decided about 8 or 9 years ago that we were going to buy a cheaper method instead of putting a radio in there. So the officers basically take this, you wear it on your side, and you take it out to charge it, and it has a speaker to speak into when you talk. The problem with that becomes it's an officer safety issue because now, as they become older, they don't charge as well anymore. So there's no way to really keep this charged during the course of the shift, as these are left on all the time in order to maintain the dispatch talking to everybody. So as a result of that, our equipment has become antiquated, and officers, the gang officers, they can no longer maintain contact with the dispatch with the other officers when they go out on certain calls because they're leaving this in the rocker. They get a quick call, foot pursued, something happens, every traffic stop, they have to pull this out. They're not able to do that in a quick manner. So one of the things that we have on the list of items that you can purchase are the radios for the vehicles. And our idea is to start buying them over the course of time. This year we'd like to allocate the $28,000 to purchase 5 of those. There is no matching funds required for this. And our recommendation is to make a motion to accept the award of the 2014 Homeland Security Grant in the amount of $28,881. Approve supplemental budget appropriations to the Police Department's revenue account 100-43420 in the amount of $28,881. And approve supplemental budget appropriations to the Police Department's expenditure account 2190-09201 in the amount of $28,881. The alternative is not to approve the grant award. With that, I'll open up for any questions that you may have.
All right. Any questions of Chief?
So, Chief, just a real quick question. So this would be the base unit will be a trunk-mounted high wattage radio that will be in the unmarked vehicles.
It'd be very similar to what's in the patrol vehicles, exactly what you just described, but they'd probably be mounted within the confines of the vehicle, and they'd be a smaller version of that because they'll have to fit in dash with the different kind of cars we're buying nowadays.
Sure. And just so we can talk just in generalities, and I can kind of give you the radios that they currently carry operate between 4 and 5 watts of power, and a fully mounted vehicle radio operates right around 45 to 50. So it does increase the power and the communications ability, especially in our weaker and lesser. And these guys are oftentimes leaving our jurisdiction into neighboring jurisdictions to do business. So I think it's an appropriate award for those vehicles.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Entertain a motion.
I move the item.
Second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
All right. Business from the City Council. Councilmember Cleveland.
Well, I do have a little bit to report. We did have a housing authority meeting, but we had received a letter of retirement from the executive director, and it was kind of appropriate also since some of the direction that the housing authority commission were wanting to go was different than the long-term goals of that director. So there's a change in direction, so it was very appropriate that they at this time leave. We did appoint Gus Becerra, who I can't remember what his original title was, but he is now the interim director taking care of operations. We will be going out and eventually looking for another director, but our goals are going to be and requirements are going to be very high because we still want to be a high performer in all categories. And it takes somebody that really knows what they're doing to be able to keep high performance and zero tolerance and many things that have actually made our housing authority such a high quality authority, and actually in the housing authority realm in the United States. Other than that, just to mention something tomorrow. The fire station number 4, the new one in O'Yeller, they're going to be having a badge pinning ceremony. I'm probably stealing it from somebody here. But they're going to be having that at 3 p.m. I know I'm going to be there to show my support and honor the ones that are getting pins and advancements and stuff that they have worked very hard for. Other than that, I'm working real hard. Our home business, my wife and I have got a contract for from, I think it's the state of Illinois. We're bringing new revenue in from out of state back into California. So it's going to keep me busy for about 3 months, real hard. So bringing new money.
Councilmember Didball.
I was able to go to the News 10 breakfast at New Earth. It was nominated as the breakfast place in Yuba City, so there were several of us there. It was a great turnout, so and a very, very good breakfast. But that was an honor to have Yuba City be represented with that. I also went to the Yuba City Unified School District Government Liaison meeting. That was the first meeting for me, so it was more of an intro meeting. But came out from that meeting just with some numbers that just were heart-wrenching. And so I want to get those out there and see what we could do. The most striking numbers were that we have about 300 homeless children in our public schools. These kids get emotional just thinking about it. These kids leave school on Friday, their last meal, and they don't get another meal until Monday. Let's do something. So, put your minds together. Send me emails. Call me. It was pretty sad. So, I would like to do something and help the school system. Let's see, tomorrow we have the fire, the badges being passed out. I'll be there. Thursday, I will be attending the transit meeting as well as the waste management meeting, and I'll give you an update on that. But sorry for breaking down, but kids get me. So anything you guys can do, call me up.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Gill.
I was also at the News 10 My Neighborhood breakfast. I thought that was kind of nice, and so I want to say thank you to Channel 10. And they came early a week before and did a story on the flood issues here, so highlighting some of the flood protection for Yuba City. So I thought they did a great job. Also attended the Southern Buttes Flood Agency meeting as well as the Finance Committee meeting. It seems to be taking up a lot of the time lately. But we're looking to get some additional funds for finishing up our projects. Things are moving along pretty well. They're putting in some of the lift pumps and putting some of the sod, sprinkling some of the sod on the levees and stuff. So it kind of makes you feel a lot safer in Yuba City than it was when you go out and look at those projects. As a group, the three of us, myself and Mike Amini and Scott Shapiro, will be in Washington, D.C. next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday is a travel day. All day Wednesday, all day Thursday, solid meetings back there trying to lobby for some additional funds that we can get. It's worked in the past, and given the fact that the city, we no longer have lobbyists in Washington, D.C., we no longer pay for a lobbyist for the state of California, so we are the lobbyist. And so we're going to go back and try to do that again. And like I said, we'll be leaving Tuesday morning at 5:30.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Gill. Vice Mayor Buckland.
I, too, had the privilege to attend an early morning breakfast, and Chief, you'll be happy to know there were no cops there. But it was, I think I got there just like 5:45, and I had forgotten that Yuba City wakes up early, and so when I arrived, I felt like I was late. But I'm not going to burn off the mayor because he was later than I was. But it was a great opportunity, really, to see how well the city was represented at that event, and also our community being involved. I attended the SACOG GRAPPA meeting a couple weeks ago. Again, looking at our metropolitan transportation every 4-year update. Received a briefing on that, and also looked at nearly $1 billion worth of 20-year funding that would be coming into our 6-county region through the various sources, whether it be federal, state, or local monies for transportation, and what the kind of the constraints of receiving that money are, and also working in conjunction with Caltrans on a number of their projects within the region, but also some of our local things. Attended a board meeting for SACOG last Thursday morning, and again, you know, everything that occurs at those meetings probably have already gone through committee, but also receiving some of the updates on some of our partnerships with the other COGs within Northern California was probably the most newsworthy piece that came out of that. Went to the Yuba City Unified School District meeting a little later that afternoon. Again, received an update on facilities improvements for Yuba City Unified School District, and it appears that 2 of our schools here in town, one being Berry School, and the other one is Butte Vista. No, not Butte Vista. Terra Buena will be receiving new gymnasiums, something that they don't have as facilities at those schools. And one of the important factors that comes out is Yuba City impacts the school district's facilities in a very large way with our recreation department. So we have an ongoing partnership with Yuba City Unified, and those 2 new facilities will be very, very helpful in expanding some of the programs that we have for our youth. And so we look forward to that continued partnership. Also, you know, the discussion on homelessness will grip anybody that listens to it. The definitions of homelessness for students are they don't live in their own home. They're either living in cars, they're living in the river bottoms, they're living with family members, and they're living on a couch. They don't have a bed to sleep in, many times are hungry. And there's a new program coming out where they're trying to slowly roll this out where youth will be able to leave school on Friday with some groceries to be able to take and have for their family for the weekend. And we hope to be able to increase the capacity of that program with the 18 separate organizations within our community that are providing food to the homeless issue. Also had the discussion with homelessness adjacent to the city on the south end of town, and hopefully we can come up with some type of resolution with Sutter County to be able to address some of those issues down in there. Also had the SACOG elected officials update meeting on the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy. That was right here in this room at 3:30 today. It was very good. We had Live Oak represented, Sutter County, and Yuba City, but we were in here for about an hour and received all the update information on what it will look like through 2036. So again, this is a requirement every 4 years that we update that plan. That's all I have.
All right, thank you for your report. I also attended the News 10 breakfast, and I was told to show up at 6, so that's why I was not there at 5:45. But it is early. I don't normally get up quite that early, but anyhow. I also attended the Sutter Buttes Flood Control Finance meeting and the regular meeting of the Sutter Buttes Flood Control Agency. And just a bit of an update with that. We're still working. We did receive a letter of commitment for $44 million of funding into, well, it takes us partway through, but we still have about $39 million that we're still trying to get commitment on from DWR, Department of Water Resources, so that we can finish up our construction project this year. And this is all centered around the department changing the definition of what our program is, and they've left us in this big gap. And so we've been struggling to try and fill the void here, and to make sure that we can finish our construction this year without having to push it over to next year, which would add tens of millions of dollars in additional cost for restaging for that work. So your trip to Washington to help secure additional funding for the Laurel Avenue South project is very timely also, and wish you well back there in Washington on that trip. Attended the mosquito vector meeting. Mosquitoes are out quite a bit right now. If you've been outdoors at any in the early evenings, I will tell you that the mosquitoes that are out this time of year are not the ones that carry the West Nile virus, but they are very much of a pest. They're very hungry because they've just come out of hibernation, so they go right after you. But the good news is they're not a health and safety issue that the other species are that come out later in the year. So there's been a lot of calls to the agency to come out and spray, but at this point it doesn't help because these mosquitoes are not the ones that are really the problem. So also attended the Habitat for Humanity and Youth Build key ceremony for the Goen family in Marysville on Sunday, where they participate in building a home for themselves. They have to participate with 500 hours, volunteer hours towards the home. And this is a family that certainly deserves this home. A family with 10 children that has been living in a 400 square foot apartment. And so this is going to be a real blessing for them to be able to have a home that they can call their own and to be able to raise those 10 children. So it was really heartwarming to be there and to participate in that program. The Youth Build program is one where the youth of our community, the at-risk youth, are a part of this program to learn a skill and how to build a house. And this is a wonderful program. They are one of two agencies in the country that were selected by the Discovery Channel. They've been out here filming this project the past week, and it will be on air on Father's Day, and it will be highlighting our area. Had an opportunity to meet with James Barrott, who was the producer for that, and he had very high words to speak of our community. He was just thrilled at how well he was received in this community and what good things that we are doing for the people in our community that need help. So that's all I have at this time. Without any further ado, meeting is adjourned. Thank you for being here tonight.